Sometimes, the hardest thing in life is realizing that the only thing standing between where you are and where you want to be is how you see yourself. Most people walk around waiting for the world to approve them, crown them, choose them. I never did. I didn't need anyone to tell me I was the best. I trained like it, walked like it, fought like it, and eventually the world caught up. If you keep seeing yourself as second, you'll act like it, speak like it, live like it. But when you start acting like you're already number one, your energy shifts, your habits change, your presence becomes impossible to ignore. This isn't about pretending. It's about becoming. I didn't rise by luck. I rose by conviction. By living these 7 principles that made me unstoppable, even when no one believed in me yet. You want to become the best? Then start acting like you already are. 1, walk like you own the floor. Every time I stepped into a room, whether it was a crowded studio, a quiet training hall, or a high-stakes movie set, I never waited for someone to tell me I belonged. I didn't ask for permission to feel worthy of being there. I walked in with presence, with authority, with quiet fire. Not because I thought I was better than anyone else, but because I refused to treat myself like I was beneath anyone. You see, most people walk into a place with doubt in their eyes, tension in their shoulders, and hesitation in their steps. They constantly question themselves, am I good enough? Do I fit in? What will they think of me? What will they think of me? And those questions become visible. But I trained myself differently. Before anyone in the room acknowledged my worth, I already had. I carried a mindset that said, I'm not here to be tolerated, I'm here to be respected. That mindset was not aggressive or loud. It didn't need to be. It was grounded, composed, sure of itself. Walking like you own the floor doesn't mean arrogance. It means alignment. It means walking in a way that says, I am here on purpose. I have something to give. I'm not here to take space. I'm here to bring presence. That presence doesn't come from titles, money, or followers. It comes from self-respect, from knowing who you are and refusing to shrink to fit into places that were built on doubt and fear. When I walked, every movement was intentional. My shoulders didn't sag, they rested with confidence. My chin didn't drop, it stayed lifted, but not stiff. My eyes didn't dart around seeking approval, they stayed focused, calm, aware of my surroundings, but centered in my purpose. Each step wasn't rushed, it was grounded, smooth, steady, like I had already arrived long before my body did. Because the truth is, when you walk into a room, you're telling the world how to treat you. Before you speak a word, your energy speaks. Your body tells a story either of someone who is unsure and waiting to be noticed, or someone who is rooted in their value and needs no outside permission. That's what I mean when I say, walk like you own the floor, not to dominate others, but to honor yourself, not to impress, but to express. Because confidence isn't something you find in the world, it's something you decide to carry with you step by step. So next time you step into a room, whether it's an interview, a gym, a classroom, or even your own home pay, attention to how you walk. Don't drag your feet. Don't shrink your frame. Don't let insecurity lead your movement. Instead, let your posture speak power. Let your presence lead the way. Let every step remind you that you are not here by accident. You are here with purpose. You are here with potential. And most of all, you are here to rise, not to hide. Because once your body starts walking like you're already the best, your mind will follow and so will the world. 2, stop competing, start dominating. I was never interested in being part of a race that everyone else was running. Competing with others was never my mission. My focus wasn't on who was ahead or behind. Mate was always on how I could go deeper within myself, how I could sharpen my edge, refine my spirit, and evolve into the most complete version of who I already was. People would come to me and say, "Bruce, this fighter says he's better than you." Or, "This actor is more popular, what do you think?" And my answer was always the same. I don't chase people. I create my own lane. Because you see, when you compete with others, you are still reacting to them. Your goals are not truly your own. They are defined by the limitations of someone else's progress. And when your direction is based on someone else's movement, you lose control of your own power. You become a follower no matter how fast you're moving. When I stopped trying to prove myself against others and started building myself for me, everything changed. I stopped asking, "How do I beat him?" and started asking, "How do I outgrow who I was yesterday?" That shift, right? There's the difference between those who fight to stay relevant and those who become legends. Competition limits you to the framework of others. But domination, true, authentic dominance comes from creating a path that no one else is even walking. I didn't want to be the best fighter like someone else. I wanted to be Bruce Lee. I didn't want to master someone else's style. I wanted to express my own. I didn't care who was ahead on paper. I cared about whether or not I was fully aligned with my own potential. To dominate means you no longer live in response mode. You create, you lead, you expand, and you inspire without needing to glance sideways. You wake up every morning and ask yourself, what is my mission? What am I building? What makes me come alive? And then you execute fully, relentlessly, without asking for permission or comparison. That's why I developed Jeet Kune Do Not, to copy others, but to break free from all limitation. I refused to live inside a box, whether it was martial arts, film, or philosophy. And you must do the same, whether you're an athlete, an artist, an entrepreneur, a student. Stop measuring yourself against someone else's timeline. That's a game you'll never win. Instead, play a bigger game. Dominate your own lane. Set the pace. Redefine the rules. And above all, own your identity so completely that no one can compare to you because there is no one like you. You don't become number one by watching number one. You become number one by stepping out of the shadows and becoming so focused, so skilled, and so clear that people stop comparing and start following. So stop competing. Start dominating. Stop chasing footsteps. Leave them behind. Because the moment you create your own path, you no longer need to run. You stand. And when you stand in your power, the world starts to move around you. 3. Speak less. Prove more. I never believed in wasting words. I never needed to shout to be heard. In fact, the more I trained, the more I evolved, the more I discovered a deep truth. The most powerful man in the room isn't the loudest. He's the one who lets his actions speak with such precision that words become unnecessary. That's what I practiced. That's what I became. You see, in today's world, everyone wants to be seen. Everyone wants to talk, to announce, to explain. They fill their days with noise posting their plans, talking about their grind, bragging about their goals. But I learned early that the ones who talk the most are often the ones doing the least. And the ones who are really doing the work, the real masters, they're too busy sharpening their blade to tell you they're holding a sword. When I trained in silence. When I practiced, I did it alone, without applause, without performance. I didn't need to post about it. I didn't need to explain my ambition. My presence became the explanation. My discipline became my reputation. My silence became my power. The truth is, the more you say, the more room there is for doubt. But when your results walk into the room before your mouth opens, there's nothing left to argue. I never told people I was the best. I didn't need to. My focus, my flow, my control, my speed, they all spoke for me. They carried more weight than 1,000 promises ever could. You don't need to convince people you're working. You need to work so deeply, so consistently, that your transformation becomes undeniable. You don't need to defend your dreams. You need to pursue them so ruthlessly that they come alive in front of everyone who ever doubted them. Let the world talk while you move in silence. Let them underestimate while you overdeliver. That's how you win. When I entered a fight, when I stood in front of a camera, when I spoke in interviews, I said only what was necessary. Why? Because I didn't want my words to speak louder than my life. And I lived in such a way that my life became the statement. This is not about being cold. It's not about isolating yourself or being silent for the sake of silence. It's about discipline. It's about knowing that true power doesn't chase attention, it commands respect. It's about letting your consistency become your voice, letting your calmness become your confidence, and letting your actions echo so loud that people hear your name long after you've left the room. So speak less, prove more. Don't be the man who promises change. Be the man who becomes it. Don't say what you're going to do. Do it, and let your success speak in a language the whole world understands. Because real power doesn't need to announce itself. It arrives. And once it arrives, it speaks for itself. 5, train when no one's watching. People love the spotlight. They crave the stage, the applause, the attention. But let me tell you something that I learned through blood, sweat, and silence. The spotlight doesn't create champions. It only reveals them. What you do when no one's watching. That's where the real transformation happens. I didn't become Bruce Lee under bright lights or in front of cameras. I became Bruce Lee in quiet rooms, alone, at midnight, in the garage, on rooftops. I trained in silence while others slept. I worked while the world was distracted. I studied while others wasted time. There was no audience, no cheers, just me, the breath in my chest, and a vision that refused to leave me alone. It's easy to work hard when people are clapping for you. It's easy to be motivated when there's a deadline, when someone's watching, when you're being judged. But that kind of motivation is shallow. It fades the moment the pressure disappears. Real discipline, the kind that separates the average from the elite, shows up when nobody's looking, when the room is empty, when it's just you and your willpower. That's where champions are built. I remember punching until my arms trembled, kicking until my legs gave out. Not for the camera, not for a trophy, but because I demanded more from myself. I didn't train because I had a fight coming up. I trained because I was the fight. Every day I asked myself, if no one ever sees this, would I still do it? And the answer was always yes, because the work was never about them. It was about me. My discipline, my standard, my evolution. Most people train to be seen. I trained to be ready, not for one moment, but for any moment. I didn't want to perform. I wanted to be prepared. I wanted my body to respond without hesitation. I wanted my reflexes to act faster than my thoughts. That level of readiness doesn't come from casual effort. It comes from quiet, brutal, daily consistency. And that consistency, it's forged in private. When you act like you're already number one, you train as if the world is depending on you, even if no one's clapping. You no longer need the pressure of a deadline. You no longer need someone to push you. You become the pressure. You become the force. Because if you only work when someone's watching, then you're not working for greatness, you're working for approval. And that will never make you unstoppable. Every time I trained, I imagined an invisible enemy watching me, waiting to take my spot. And that vision pushed me to go harder, to do one more rep, to study one more technique, to stay a little longer, because I knew when the real moment came, I wouldn't rise to the occasion. I would fall back to the level of my preparation, and I refused to be unprepared. So if you're serious about being the best, start training like the world is watching, even when it's not. Show up for yourself, even in the dark, especially in the dark, because that's where your edge is carved. That's where your power is born. And when the spotlight finally finds you, you won't be surprised. You'll be ready, because you didn't train for attention. You trained for Master 5. Don't wait for opportunities, create them. When I first entered the world of cinema, they told me there were no roles for someone like me. They told me an Asian man couldn't lead a major film, couldn't carry an audience, couldn't speak fluent English on screen and still be taken seriously. They smiled and patted my back, offered me crumbs, and told me to be grateful. But I didn't come into this world to wait in line. I came to break the damn wall and build a new door. Most people live their entire lives waiting for the call, the invitation, the lucky break. They sit by the phone, check their inbox, hope someone sees them. They wait for recognition, for a green light, for someone more powerful to finally say, "Now you may begin." But what if that call never comes? What if the door never opens? What if the people you're waiting on don't even see your value? That's the trap. That's how people stay stuck. They place their future in someone else's hands. But I realized something early on: if you want to lead, you can't wait to be chosen. You must choose yourself. When Hollywood ignored me, I didn't argue, I didn't beg. I created my own studio. I wrote my own scripts. I trained my own camera, crew. I taught my students how to perform. I studied lighting. I studied editing. I became the opportunity because I wasn't interested in being accepted into their system. I was building a new one. You cannot rise by asking. You rise by acting. You rise by doing what no one else is willing to do. Believe in yourself so completely that others begin to follow out of pure respect. When I opened martial arts schools, it wasn't because someone offered me space. It was because I saw people hungry for something real, something direct, something that honored their instincts. I didn't wait for permission to teach. I taught. And through that act of service, I built legacy. Every move I made was based on the belief that my future was not tied to luck or someone else's decision. It was tied to my effort, my mindset, my boldness. This is what it means to act as if you're already number one, not to wait, but to build, not to seek, but to embody, not to knock, but to design the building where the doors don't even need locks. The truth is, you already have everything you need to begin. You may not have money, fame, or a perfect plan, but you have the most powerful asset of all, initiative. And the moment you choose to act instead of wish, to create instead of complain, to move instead of wait, your entire world starts to shift. Opportunities aren't found. They're made in silence, in discipline, in action. They begin when you stop asking, "Will someone give me a chance?" and start saying, "I will give myself one." You stop being a follower in someone else's story and start writing your own. And let me be clear, creating opportunity doesn't mean it will be easy. You will be mocked. You will be misunderstood. You will be told to calm down, to wait your turn, to know your place. But listen carefully. Your place is wherever you decide to plant your flag. Wherever you choose to pour your energy and your soul, that becomes sacred ground. I didn't wait for someone to build me a stage. I built my own. And then I performed on it until the world couldn't ignore it anymore. And you can't too. So don't wait. Don't hope. Don't knock timidly at someone else's gate. Instead, pick up the hammer, lay the foundation, raise the walls. Build something so undeniable that people have no choice but to look your way. When you act like you're already number one, you stop chasing the world and the world starts chasing you. Opportunity isn't something you discover. It's something you declare. And once you declare it, with every ounce of your being, nothing and no one can take it from you. Master the mirror. I faced many fighters. I've stood across from strong men, skilled men, famous men, but none of them were ever my true opponent. Not really. The greatest battle I ever fought didn't happen in a ring. It didn't happen on a film set. It happened in silence, in front of a mirror. Because the most dangerous enemy you'll ever face is the voice in your own mind. That voice that says, you're not ready. That whisper that tells you, you're not good enough. That shadow that follows you, constantly comparing, constantly doubting, constantly reminding you of your past failures. That voice wears your face. It speaks with your voice. It lives with you. And if you don't master it, it will master you. Every single day, I stood before the mirror not to admire but to confront. I looked into my own eyes and asked myself the hard questions. Are you living to impress? Or are you living to express? Are you acting like a warrior or just wearing the costume of one? Are you running from your potential or walking into it with fire? The mirror doesn't lie. It reflects your habits, your beliefs, your inner dialogue. It shows you who you really are, not who you pretend to be in public, not who you perform as on stage, but who you are in private. And if you don't like what you see, that's where the work begins, not on the outside, but from within. You can dress up the outside. You can flex your body, show off your skills, recite your goals. But if your inner world is still ruled by fear, insecurity, and doubt, then everything else is decoration on a crumbling foundation. That's why I trained my mind harder than I trained my body. I knew that physical strength without mental clarity is a hollow force. I knew that if I didn't master my reactions, my emotions, my impulses, then I would always be a slave to circumstance. And so I made it my mission to tame the voice inside, to silence the noise, to replace weakness with truth and fear with focus. And you must do the same. You must stop being your own enemy. You must stop looking in the mirror and seeing not enough. You must stop judging yourself by the past and start commanding your future. When you look into the mirror, don't search for flaws, search for your fire. Don't ask, why me? Ask, why not me? Don't carry shame, carry responsibility. Because the mirror can be your prison, or it can be your dojo. It can haunt you, or it can train you. The choice is yours. I remember one night, deep into my training, after a long, punishing session, I was bruised, tired, alone. I looked into the mirror and saw not just my body, but my journey. Every scar, every mistake, every sacrifice. And I didn't feel shame, I felt power. Because everything I had endured was not there to break me. It was there to forge me. Mastering the mirror means you stop flinching at your reflection. You stop apologizing for your ambition. You stop hiding your light just to make others comfortable. You start facing your truth. And you take responsibility for your growth day by day, thought by thought. You don't become number one by changing the world. You become number one by changing the way you see yourself. So look in the mirror, not to criticize, but to coach. Not to tear down, but to rebuild. Look into your own eyes until the fear disappears and something else rises: conviction, clarity, fire. That's when you know you've mastered the hardest opponent you'll ever face. Because when you master the mirror, you no longer walk through life looking for validation. You carry it. You no longer shrink when challenged. You expand. And you no longer follow your emotions. You leave them with power, with peace, and with purpose. The mirror is your greatest teacher. you're willing to stop running and truly look. Be the standard. There was a time in my life when everyone wanted to label me actor, fighter, Asian, foreigner, too fast, too intense, too different. They wanted to box me in, fit me into categories they understood. They wanted me to follow the standard, but I didn't come here to fit into the world. I came to reshape it. If you spend your life trying to meet someone else's definition of success, you will never become who you were born to be. You'll always be slightly off, slightly unsure, slightly incomplete, because you're chasing an identity that doesn't belong to you. That's the trap most people fall into. They follow the rules, they mimic the greats, they study the system hoping to rise within it. But here's the truth. Those who follow the standard may become successful, but those who set the standard become unforgettable. When I created Jeet Kune Do, I wasn't trying to impress anyone. I wasn't trying to improve another style. I was rejecting the idea that I had to fit into someone else's system at all. I realized that true mastery wasn't about adding more techniques. It was about stripping away everything that wasn't necessary. It was about discovering what was uniquely Minnie-Ant, owning it completely. You see, most people build their identity by collecting pieces of others. They imitate what works. They copy what's trending. They do what's expected. But in that process, they forget to ask the most important question. Who am I without all of this? What is my truth when no one is looking? When you live like you're already number one, you no longer borrow identity, you become it. You no longer ask, how should I act? You declare, this is who I am. You don't follow the rhythm. You are the rhythm. Your confidence doesn't come from agreement. It comes from alignment with your values, your vision, your core. People always asked me, Bruce, what system do you belong to? And I told them, I belong to no system. I am my own method. I am the expression of my own truth, because I didn't want to teach people to follow. I wanted to awaken in them the courage to lead. And that's what you must do now. Be the standard. Let your discipline become the example others strive for. Let your energy raise the level of any room you enter. Let your voice, your ideas, your principles be so strong, so centered, so alive that others feel their own truth awaken just by being around you. But to become the standard, you must first let go of the need to be liked. You must be willing to stand alone, to be misunderstood, to be ridiculed for not following the crowd. You must be willing to walk a path no one else sees, until one day they look up and realize you were never behind. You were always ahead. You are not here to imitate. You are not here to follow. You are not here to meet someone else's standard. You are here to become the standard. Don't just study greatness, embody it. Don't just chase excellence, radiate it. Don't just dream of being one of the best, become the one they try to be. Set your own pace. Define your own success. Live your own truth so fully that the world must adjust to you. Because the moment you stop living by borrowed standards and start living from your deepest truth, you don't just rise. You become the fire that lights the way for everyone else. Stay humble, stay dangerous. When people think of being number one, they often imagine a man standing above everyone else, aloud, proud, flaunting his power. But that's not what I ever aimed to become. Because true greatness does not need to shout. It does not need to demand attention. It commands it effortlessly through mastery. And the ones who are truly the most dangerous in this life are also the most humble. You see, I trained for years, not just to strike faster, but to think deeper. Not just to fight harder, but to understand more clearly. And what I realized along the way is this. The moment you start believing that you're too good to listen, too powerful to learn, or too big to be questioned, that is the moment you begin to fall. Staying humble is not about making yourself small. It's about knowing that no matter how high you climb, there is still more to learn, still more within you to unlock, still more refinement to achieve. When you're truly on the path of mastery, ego becomes a distraction. Pride becomes a poison, and arrogance becomes a chain around your ankles. I've seen men who were skilled lose everything because their ego made them blind. I've seen fighters walk into a ring with a loud mouth and no discipline and leave broken. And I've seen quiet warriors still, calm, composed, walk into that same ring and dismantle everything with precision, focus, and poise. That's the power of humility. Because humility keeps you grounded. It keeps you sharp. It keeps you teachable. When I was at the height of my fame, when people called me unstoppable, when the world wanted to label me legend, I went back into my training room. I stayed close to the mat. I listened more than I spoke. I asked questions. I studied new ideas. Not because I felt weak, but because I knew the strongest man is the one who never stops evolving. And here's the paradox. The more humble you become, the more powerful you are. Because humility keeps your mind open, your spirit clear, and your edge razor sharp. It makes you unpredictable. It makes you composed under pressure. While others drown in their ego, you rise in silence. So what does it mean to stay dangerous while staying humble? It means you carry your power quietly. You don't need to prove it. It's in your presence. It's in your decisions. It's in your preparation. It's in your ability to hold peace in one hand and fire in the other. You don't react, you choose. You don't explode, you strike with precision. And because you're not busy chasing attention, you're focused on building real strength, real control, real understanding. People often ask me, Bruce, with everything you've achieved, how do you stay grounded? And I always said, because I remember what it took to get here. And I know it can all disappear in an instant if I forget. When you act like you're already number one, you must also carry the responsibility that comes with it. That means setting an example. That means holding your power with grace. That means never letting praise make you soft or success make you lazy. Don't let compliments distract you from the mission. Don't let applause slow your training. Don't let the crown make you forget the climb. Stay humble because that's where clarity lives. Stay dangerous because that's where strength is born. And when you carry both, you become unstoppable. You become the storm no one sees coming. You become the fire that doesn't flicker. You become the kind of man the world respects not because you demand it, but because you earned it in silence. Lead yourself first. Everyone wants to be a leader. Everyone wants influence. They want followers, attention, applause. But few understand the weight of what it really means to lead. Leadership isn't a title you claim. It's not a role you play on a stage. It's a responsibility you earn by first mastering the most difficult task of all, leading yourself. When I stepped into the world of martial arts, film, philosophy, I didn't ask others to follow me. I wasn't trying to gather attention. I was trying to master my mind, my movement, my emotions, my time. I knew that before I could lead anyone else, I had to become the kind of man I would be willing to follow. And that's where true greatness begins. Most people want to change the world, but they can't even change their own habits. They want to teach others discipline, but their own lives are scattered, reactive, undisciplined. They want to inspire others to chase their dreams, but they keep running from their own, and that's why their influence never lasts. Because people don't follow what you say, they follow what you live. If you can't lead your thoughts will lead you. If you can't lead your emotions will control your actions. And if you can't lead your actions, your life will always be a reaction, not a creation. I trained my mind to obey my no, to sabotage me. I trained my body to respond, not to resist. I trained my emotions to stay calm in chaos, not to explode in fear. Every day, I worked on myself as if I were my own student. I challenged my weaknesses. I questioned my beliefs. I shaped my habits like a sculptor shapes stone. Because I knew that if I didn't lead myself, I'd always be looking to others for direction. And that is a dangerous place to live, from dependency instead of purpose. Leading yourself means doing what's right, not what's easy. It means waking up early, even when no one is watching. It means pushing through the discomfort when everyone else stops. It means staying true to your principles, even when no one is clapping. It's in the small choices, the silent decisions, the moments when you either rise or collapse into the same excuses. I didn't become Bruce Lee by copying others. I became Bruce Lee by mastering Bruce Lee, by holding myself to a higher standard than the world ever could. I didn't need outside pressure. I was the pressure. I didn't need others to tell me to stay focused. I was the focus. And that's what you must become. Before you lead a team lead, your energy. Before you lead a brand lead, your routine. Before you lead a family lead, your reactions. Before you lead the world, learn to lead your own thoughts, your own breath, your own decisions. Because when you lead yourself with discipline, with clarity, and with purpose, something powerful happens. You no longer need followers to validate your value. You lead because it's who you are, not because you're trying to be someone else. You lead because your life itself becomes a map, a model, a mirror, showing others what's possible. You want to act like you're already number one? Then stop looking outward. Start looking inward. Hold yourself accountable. Be your own standard. Lead your mind. Lead your time. Lead your habits. And soon enough, the world will follow. Not because you forced them to. Not because you begged them to. But because you showed them what it looks like to master the hardest path of all. The path within. Become untouchable by mastering your inner state. People think strength is about muscles, about how loud you speak, how hard you hit, how many followers you have. But let me tell you the truth. I learned through years of pain, silence, and self-mastery, true strength is invisible. It's not what you show the world. It's what you control inside when no one's watching. And the highest level of power, the level that very few ever reach, is not domination over others. It's domination over your inner state. You become untouchable, not by being the loudest, the fastest, or even the most successful. You become untouchable when your mind is unshakable, when your emotions obey you, when your peace cannot be stolen by circumstances, when chaos knocks and you remain still inside. That's power. I was never afraid of a man who screamed in anger. I was never intimidated by a fighter who came at me wild and uncontrolled. Those men are easy to read. They are ruled by their emotions, easy to provoke, easy to predict, because their inner world is chaotic, reactive, and undisciplined. The man I feared most was the one who could stand still in the storm, the one who didn't flinch under pressure, the one who could breathe while everyone else panicked. That was the man with true power, not because of his technique, but because of his presence. His energy was clean. His state was his own, and nothing around him could steal it. That's the man I became, but I wasn't born that way. I had to earn that stillness. I had to suffer through the noise of my own doubts, the emotional waves of fear, the anger that rose in my chest, the desire to be seen, validated, applauded. I had to strip all of it away until what was left was something clear, silent, and immovable. Let me ask you this. Can you go through a setback without breaking down? Can you be insulted and not lower yourself in reaction? Can you walk through uncertainty with calm breath and steady mind? If not, then your power is still conditional, external, weak. To become untouchable, you must learn to live from within. And to live from within, you must master 3 things: your thoughts, your emotions, your nervous system. If your thoughts are not your own, if they're just reactions to what the world throws at you, then you are not free. If your emotions rise and fall based on other people's words, actions, or opinions, then you are not in control. If your body tightens, panics, shuts down when life becomes uncomfortable, then your foundation is made of sand. So what do? You rebuild yourself from the inside out. You sit with your fear instead of running from it. You observe your anger instead of unleashing it. You ask, what is this teaching me? Instead of, why is this happening to me? You learn to breathe deeply in chaos. You learn to return to your center even when everything around you is falling apart. And over time, something incredible happens. You no longer flinch. You no longer overreact. You no longer seek approval or fear rejection or beg for recognition, because you've built something stronger than anyone else can see, an inner fortress. I built mine through training, through solitude, through facing myself. When I punched, I wasn't just training my body, I was training my nervous system to stay calm under tension. When I meditated, I wasn't just relaxing, I was observing the waves of my mind until they slowed. When I was misunderstood, I didn't argue. I allowed the silence to protect my peace. That's how I became untouchable. Not through aggression, through awareness. You must stop outsourcing your state to the world. Stop giving your peace away to people who haven't earned it. Stop letting opinions shake you, failures define you, and praise inflate you. Instead, begin to build the stillness inside. Wake up early and sit in silence. Train your body with purpose, not vanity. Discipline your mind like a monk. Detach from the need to always win. And most importantly, return to yourself every single, because you'll realize something profound. When your inner state is your own, the world can no longer touch you. They can misunderstand you, but you'll remain clear. They can doubt you, but you'll remain certain. They can attack you, but you'll respond, not react. Imagine walking through life with that kind of calm fire, not needing to prove yourself, not needing to defend yourself, not needing to chase anything because you already have you. That's what I call true freedom. That's what I call power. And that's what it means to act like you're already number one. Because no matter what the world says or does, you remain number one within. I used to think invincibility meant winning every fight. But now I know invincibility is being so grounded, so rooted in your purpose, your practice, your presence, that no loss, no insult, no change, no failure can take you off your path. You want to become untouchable? Then stop trying to control the outside world. Master your inside world instead. That is the only battlefield that ever mattered. And once you've won, there everything else becomes strategy, not survival. Final reminder from me to you. You were not born to live under emotional storms. You were born to move through them, clear, balanced, and fiercely present. So from this moment forward, protect your peace like it's gold. Sharpen your breath like it's a blade. Stand so still that the chaos can't see you. Move so deliberately that life respects your every step. And remember, the man who controls his inner world can walk through any outer world and never be moved. Express, don't impress. There's a disease that spreads quietly in the modern world, one more dangerous than any physical illness, the addiction to impress. People wake up with one question in their minds: how can I be liked today? They scroll, they pose, they perform, always chasing attention, validation, and applause. They wear masks for approval, build personalities like costumes, and water down their truth just to be accepted. And the tragic part is, most of them don't even realize they're doing it. Let me tell you what I discovered early in my journey. The moment you start living to impress others, you lose yourself. You sacrifice your originality for popularity. You trade your essence for approval. You become a mirror, reflecting what the world wants to see, rather than a flame revealing who you truly are. That's why I built my entire life around a different principle. Express, don't impress. When I created Jeet Kune Do, I wasn't trying to impress anyone. I wasn't trying to be flashy, complicated, or sensational. I was trying to express my truth through motion, my discipline, my instincts, my spiritual, moving in harmony. My goal wasn't to look powerful. My goal was to be real. And when you are real, when your movement flows from within, people feel something deeper than entertainment. They feel authenticity. They feel presence. They feel you. You see, when you live to impress, your energy is always reaching outward. You're always trying to guess what people want from you, how to look, how to sound, how to win their approval. But when you express, your energy flows from inward to outward. It's not reactive, it's radiant. You stop asking, what will they think of me? And start asking, what truth do I need to live today? And that shift right there is where your real power begins. Most people build an image of success instead of becoming successful. They focus on appearances, followers, likes, luxury, forgetting that all of it can be gone tomorrow. But expression, real expression, cannot be taken from you because it doesn't belong to them. It belongs to you. It comes from the depth of who you are, from the clarity of your values, from the strength of your convictions. When I was in Hollywood, they offered me roles that didn't reflect who I was. Stereotypes, caricatures. They wanted me to be the exotic sidekick, the silent warrior, the mystical Asian. I could have accepted. I could have smiled, played along, collected the paycheck. But I said no, not because I was arrogant, but because I knew who I was. I knew that if I agreed to impress, I would betray my purpose to express. That decision cost me roles. It cost me fame, but it bought me freedom. Because when you choose to express, you may not win the crowd, but you win your soul. And that's a trade worth making every time. Let me tell you, this expression is not about being loud. It's not about rebellion for the sake of rebellion. It's about alignment. It's about removing what's false and allowing what's true to flow through you. You express through your craft. You express through your silence. You express through your discipline. You express by refusing to pretend. And the deeper your self-awareness, the more powerful your expression becomes. Because it's not based on imitation. It's based on integration, not on performance, on presence. In my life, I trained to align every movement of my body with the truth of my spirit. When I kicked, it wasn't to show off. When I punched, it wasn't to entertain. Every motion had intention. Every breath had purpose. That's why people felt something real when they watched me. They weren't watching a man trying to impress. They were witnessing a man fully in tune with himself. So ask yourself, Are you living to be seen or living to be true? Are you acting from pressure or acting from purpose? Are you putting on a show or revealing your soul? When you live to impress, you are never enough. Because no matter how good you are, someone will always criticize. No matter how much you achieve, someone will always doubt. No matter how much you give, someone will say it wasn't enough. But when you live to express, you become unshakable. Because expression is internal. It's not about the reaction, it's about the release. It's about honoring what's inside of you and letting it flow out clean, strong, unapologetic. And whether they praise you or hate you becomes irrelevant, because you know who you are, and you'd rather be rejected for your truth than loved for your illusion. Now listen, carefully, expression is not easy. It takes courage to be real in a world addicted to image. It takes strength to say no to what is popular and yes to what is personal. It takes clarity to drop the mask and speak with your true voice. But once you taste it once, you feel the power of moving, speaking, and living from truth. Nothing else will satisfy you again. So stop trying to fit in. Stop trying to be impressive. Stop trying to live up to expectations that weren't even written by you. Start listening to your inner voice again. Start trusting your instincts. Start aligning your actions with your deepest values. Whether you're an artist, a fighter, a teacher, a builder, it doesn't matter. You are here to create, not conform, to shine, not shrink, to express, not impress. Because in the end, people don't remember who had the flashiest performance. They remember who made them feel something real. And the only way to do that is to live, breathe, and move as your authentic self. So ask yourself right now, am I chasing impressions or living expression? And if the answer is not expression, then make a decision today. Return to yourself. Strip away what's false. And begin again not as a performer, but as a presence. Remember this: the man who expresses truth becomes a force the world cannot ignore. Because the world may not always agree with you, but it will always respect what's real. Die before you die. Let go of the ego and become limitless. There is a death that gives life. It is not the death of the body, it is the death of the illusion. The death of the ego, the death of the false self that keeps you small, reactive, prideful, and afraid. And if you are serious about rising, if you are serious about becoming more than a performer, more than a fighter, more than just another name on a screen, then you must die before you die. People spend their whole lives protecting an image. They build walls around their flaws, defend their opinions like they're sacred, and wear masks so tightly that they forget who they are underneath. And the tragedy is they call that living. But I discovered a deeper truth. You cannot become everything you're meant to be until you're willing to let go of everything you're not. Ego wants to be right. Ego wants to be praised. Ego wants to control. But your true self, it wants to grow. It wants to shed. It wants to evolve. When I was younger, I too had an ego. I wanted to prove I was the best. I wanted to be recognized. I wanted the world to know who Bruce Lee was. And then, through intense failure, through pain, through silence, I began to realize something. The more I clung to ego, the more I suffered. Every time someone disrespected me, I would react. Every time I lost, I felt humiliated. Every time someone didn't believe in me, I felt the need to show them. But over time, I saw that all of that was a cage, a prison made of pride. And one day, I made a decision that changed everything. I decided to let my ego die, not partially, fully. I stopped needing to be seen. I stopped needing to win. I stopped needing to be right. And in that surrender, I found a deeper power than I ever imagined. You see, when the ego dies, clarity is born. Silence becomes strength, and self becomes fluid. That's when I truly became water. Because ego is stiff, ego is rigid, holds form, and fears change. But truth flows. Truth adapts. Truth transforms. When you let go of ego, you begin to move through life differently. You stop clinging to labels strong, tough, right, dominant, and you start living from awareness. You listen more. You learn faster. You grow without shame. Most people fear this death. They think, if I let go of my image, who will I be? If I stop proving myself, will people still respect me? If I stop defending everything, will I look weak? But I'll tell you this, only the truly strong can let go. Only the brave can surrender. Only the wise can realize that who they really are cannot be taken, mocked, or destroyed, because it is beyond identity. When I trained, I didn't train to impress. I trained to understand. I trained to dissolve. I trained to go beyond form. Jeet Kune Do wasn't just a martial art, it was a philosophy of letting go. Letting go of fixed positions. Letting go of tradition. Letting go of what worked yesterday to discover what's real today. And you must do the same. Die before you die. Let go of who you think you need to be. Let go of your attachment to success. Let go of your need to be validated. Let go of the shame from your past. Let go of your obsession with control. And what you will find underneath all that noise is the purest version of you. Clear, empty, awake. This death is not an end. It is a beginning. Because once the ego is gone, fear can no longer drive you. Anger can no longer possess you. Insecurity can no longer limit you. And the world can no longer define you. You become limitless. When someone insults you, you smile. Not because you're weak, but because there's no wound for them to touch. When you lose, you learn not because you enjoy failure, but because you no longer fear it. When life shifts, you adapt not because you have no foundation, but because you are the foundation. And when people look at you, they will feel something rare. They will feel presence, stillness, power that needs no performance. And they will not know how to explain it because it does not fit into any category they know. That's what happens when you die before you die. You stop playing the old game. You start moving from a deeper place, from truth, from essence, from pure expression. And in that place, you no longer need the world to see you. You become the kind of person that sees the world. This is not about becoming passive. This is not about surrendering your strength. It's about transcending the need to prove it. It's about reaching the point where your spirit, your breath, and your discipline do the speaking for you. So how do you begin? Start small. Catch yourself when the ego rises. When you want to win the argument, just to win pause. When you want to be admired more than you want to be authentic, breathe. When you feel the urge to defend yourself, look deeper. Ask, is this my truth? Or is this just my ego reacting? The more you observe, the more you understand. And the more you understand, the more you let go. And the more you let go, the lighter, clearer, freer you become. This is what it means to be truly alive. Not to dominate, but to flow. Not to prove, but to express. Not to control, but to trust. So die before you die, and let what's false fall away. Let what's heavy drop. Let what's scared be seen. And you will rise not as a copy of what the world expects, but as a full, living expression of the truth that was inside you all along. You don't need to become someone. You need to return to the someone you were before the ego told you who to be. The man who dies to his ego becomes untouchable, unshakable, unstoppable. He becomes everything because he clings to nothing. Make peace with the void. Embrace emptiness to find ultimate power. There is a space inside you that most people run from. A stillness so deep, so quiet, that it unnerves the modern mind. People will distract themselves to avoid it. They will chase noise, chase movement, chase applause, all to keep from facing it. But what they call emptiness, I call the source. I learned to make peace with the void. And in doing so, I discovered a kind of power that no enemy could take from me. The void is not a place of weakness. It is not lifeless. It is not passive. It is where all movement begins. It is the root of clarity, creation, and consciousness. It is the space between thoughts, the breath between strikes, the pause between storms. It is the silence you return to when everything around you is screaming. And if you can make peace with that silence, you become untouchable. But most people fear the void. They feel discomfort when nothing is happening. They feel anxiety in stillness. They feel panic when the future is unclear, when the next step is invisible. So they run. They fill the emptiness with distractions, scrolling, talking, consuming, performing, never realizing that in their fear of the void, they are disconnecting from themselves. You cannot find your power in noise. You find it in stillness. You cannot find your truth in movement. You find it in stopping. You cannot build clarity by running. You build it by being. When I trained, I didn't just study motion, I studied the spaces between motion. In a fight, most people look for action. I looked for the stillness between reactions. That's where the truth hides. That's where opportunity lives. The punch you don't throw. The moment you don't rush. The breath you take before you move. That's where mastery is born. Most fighters lose not because they lack skill, but because they fear the stillness. They rush. They overcommit. They become frantic. But the calm fighter sees everything. He moves when needed, waits when wise. He owns the silence. And in that silence, he becomes lethal. The void is not your enemy. It is your edge. But let's go deeper. The void isn't just tactical, it's spiritual. Because beyond the fight, beyond the practice, beyond the persona, you will eventually face yourself. And when everything is stripped away, your success, your reputation, your name, what remains? That is the void. And most men have no relationship with that space. They only know how to act, not how to be. They only know how to perform, not how to sit. They only know how to pursue, not how to rest. But if you can learn to sit in that space, to breathe, to observe, to release the need for answers, you unlock something extraordinary. You begin to operate from stillness. You begin to respond instead of react. You begin to move with precision, not panic. You begin to live as a master, not a machine. In Zen, they say the usefulness of a cup is in its emptiness. I say the same of a man. If you are full of noise, pride, insecurity, desire, you have no room for wisdom. But when you empty yourself, when you release the unnecessary, you become useful to truth. You become a vessel of clarity, not clutter. People ask me, Bruce, how do you move so freely? I told them it's not about adding more. It's about removing everything that blocks the flow. It's about becoming empty enough so that your instincts can move faster than your thoughts. It's about trusting the space. And I learned this not just through martial arts, but through life. I faced loss. I faced pain. I faced betrayal, rejection, and doubt. And each time, I returned to the void. I didn't run from it. I sat in it. When my back was against the wall, when I felt alone, when I didn't know what was next, I went inward. And in that stillness, I heard something deeper than fear. I heard my breath. I heard my truth. I heard what could not be shaken. That is the gift of the void. It strips you. Then it strengthens you. It humbles you. Then it reveals you. It silences you. Then it speaks through you. But you must be willing to sit in it, to not fill it, to not rush through it, to simply be. And when you do, your entire life changes. Your relationships become rooted. Because you are no longer reacting to fill a need, you are listening from presence. Your work becomes meaningful because it no longer comes from desperation, it comes from centered contribution. Your power becomes real because it is not fueled by performance, it is fueled by peace. And here's the most beautiful part. When you make peace with the void, you make peace with life. You stop fearing change because the space inside you is already still. You stop fearing failure because you no longer define yourself by outcomes. You stop fearing death because you've already died to all that was false, and now only truth remains. This is not philosophy for the bookshelf. This is the foundation of true strength. So here is my challenge to you. Spend time with yourself, not doing, being, not chasing, listening, not posting, breathing. Turn off the noise, close your eyes, face the silence, and instead of resisting it, welcome it. Because that space you've been avoiding is the doorway to everything you've been seeking. Sit with your doubts, not to argue with them, but to understand them. Sit with your fears, not to suppress them, but to see through them. Sit with your breath, not to control it, but to feel it. And soon, the chaos inside you will begin to slow. The waves will settle, and you will begin to hear something soft but undeniable. Your power, not the kind that's loud, not the kind that needs to be seen, but the kind that moves the world without needing to move at all. Make peace with the void, and you will become the calm in the storm, the stillness in the battle, the presence in the noise, the one who no longer reacts but creates. Because when nothing outside of you can disturb the space within you, you have found true mastery. Become formless to become free. Adapt to everything. Attach to nothing. You've heard me say it 1,000 times. Be water, my friend. But most people repeat it without understanding it. They think it's poetic. They think it sounds cool. But this wasn't poetry to mate. It was survival. It was my truth. It was my way of breaking out of everything that tried to confine me, limit me, shape me into something I was not. Because if there's one thing I've learned Through every discipline I've studied, from martial arts to philosophy, from physical movement to inner silence, it's this. The moment you attach, you limit. And the moment you limit, you begin to break. Water cannot be broken. Why? Because it doesn't resist. It flows around obstacles. It bends. It yields. It moves, but it is never defeated. You punch it, and your hand passes through. You block it, and it finds another way. You contain it, and it takes the shape of the container. But the moment you remove the container, it becomes infinite again. This is how I lived. This is how I trained. This is how I survived in a world that didn't know what to do with someone like me. An Asian man with a Western tongue. A philosopher who fought like fire. A warrior who sought peace. They couldn't put me in a box. So I broke every box they gave me. That's what it means to become formless. It's not about becoming empty. It's about becoming limitless. But you can't do that if you're constantly clinging to fixed identities, rigid beliefs, and emotional reactions. You can't do that if your mind is stuck in structure, if your spirit is tied to ego, if your body moves like it's dragging chains behind it. Look at the world today. Everyone wants to be something. A name, a label, a role, a brand. But in their obsession to become something, they forget how to become everything. They get stuck in what they were told to be, stuck in how they've always done things, stuck in one style, one job, one mindset. But water doesn't get stuck. It flows. It adapts. It transforms. I remember when I first studied Wing Chun, I trained hard with total discipline. But eventually, I started to feel something blocked. I was growing, but only in one direction. I needed to expand in all directions. So I let go. I began exploring other arts, boxing, fencing, wrestling, philosophy. I started pulling in lessons from every form, but clinging to none. Absorb what is useful. Discard what is not. Add what is uniquely your own. That became my code. People didn't understand. They said, Bruce, you can't just break tradition. You can't just mix styles. You can't just let go of everything you've learned. But I wasn't letting go of truth. I was letting go of limitation. When something no longer served me, I released it. Not with anger, with clarity. Because I was not loyal to form, I was loyal to flow. That's the difference between those who evolve and those who remain stuck in the past. Some people hold on to ideas long after they've stopped working. They hold on to habits, to relationships, to systems, to titles, because they fear the unknown. But what they don't realize is this: the unknown is not your enemy, it's your freedom. When you are formless, the world cannot predict you. It cannot define you. And most importantly, it cannot control you. You walk into a room and you don't shrink to fit it. You reshape it with your presence. You face challenges and you don't panic, you shift with awareness. You lose something and you don't collapse, you redirect with flow, because you've trained yourself not to cling, but to move. Now let me be clear. This is not about being flaky. This is not about lacking conviction. This is not about abandoning structure. This is about becoming unattached to anything that limits your growth. It's about honoring discipline without becoming rigid, holding beliefs without becoming blind, moving with focus, but without fear. When you become formless, you don't lose your identity, you transcend it. You are no longer just a fighter, no longer just a student, no longer just a man defined by the world's categories. You become a force, And the force does not ask for permission. It does not beg for space. It simply moves sand. The world must adapt. This principle changed everything in my life. When I was injured, when my back was nearly broken, I could have quit. I could have clung to who I used to be. But instead, I became water again. I adapted. I rebuilt. I flowed through pain. And from that stillness, I returned even stronger. Because pain couldn't break might, could only shape me. When you stop attaching to your old identity, you give birth to a new version of yourself. One that isn't driven by fear or ego or the past, but one that is rooted in awareness, movement, and flow. So here's what I want you to understand. You are not your job. You are not your title. You are not your style, your status, your scars. You are the awareness beneath all of it. The breath behind the punch. The stillness behind the storm. The water behind the wave. Let go of needing to be seen in a certain way. Let go of the need to control every outcome. Let go of your obsession with permanence and allow yourself to move, to grow, to change. Because when you become formless, no challenge can trap you. No failure can hold you. No success can blind you. You become the kind of person who walks through fire not to prove something, but because you know how to flow through heat without being burned. So remember this: to be free, you must be formless. To be powerful, you must be adaptive. To be unstoppable, you must attach to nothing, so you can move with everything. Be water, not just in battle, in life, in love, in business, in solitude. Be the calm that flows, the power that yields, the presence that never needs to announce itself. Because the world doesn't need more people trying to fit in. It needs more people who know how to disappear from the form and become the flow itself. 17. Build the inner garden. Protect your mind like sacred ground. There's an ancient proverb that says, your mind is a garden. Your thoughts are the seeds. You can grow flowers or you can grow weeds. When I first heard that, it stayed with me for life, because it confirmed something I had already discovered through years of sweat, silence, and stillness. The mind is your greatest weapon and your greatest weakness. And the way you treat it determines the course of your life. Most people spend years training their body. They obsess over their image. They train for strength, speed, flexibility, but they leave the mind wide open, exposed, unprotected, untrained. They let anyone and anything plant seeds in it. Doubt from a stranger, fear from the news, bitterness from their past, comparison from the internet, opinions from people who don't even know who they are. And just like that, the weeds grow slowly, silently, relentlessly, until the mind becomes a jungle of noise. Thoughts they didn't choose, emotions they don't understand, beliefs that don't serve them. And then they wonder why they feel lost, why they can't stay focused, why they have everything but still feel empty. It's not the world that's broken. It's the inner garden that's been neglected. Let me tell you something that may change your life. If you do not plant your own thoughts, the world will plant them for you. And most of what it plants will not help you, because the world is loud, it is fast, it is chaotic, and it will fill your mind with weeds if you let it. That's why I train my mind like a warrior, not just with books, not just with movement, but with discipline, with silence, with awareness. Every day, I returned to my inner garden. I checked the soil. I observed what was growing. I pulled out what didn't belong, and I watered what gave me strength, peace, and clarity. You see, I didn't become Bruce Lee because I had the strongest body. I became Bruce Lee because I protected the space behind the body. I knew that all movement starts in the mind. Every strike, every breath, every decision first happens in thought. So if the mind is full of weeds, your life will be scattered. But if the mind is cultivated, your life will be focused. When I meditated, I wasn't escaping the world. I was cleaning my garden. I was removing judgment, releasing fear, uprooting doubt, and planting new seeds: stillness, discipline, flow, presence, self-respect. This was not something I did once a week. It was something I did every day, like brushing my teeth, like sharpening a blade, because I knew you become what you allow to grow inside. If you grow anger, you will carry it with you. If you grow fear, it will whisper in every decision. If you grow shame, it will shape how you see yourself. But if you grow clarity, calmness, and courage, you become a walking storm of purpose. Peaceful, but powerful. Grounded, but alert. Quiet, but sharp. And that kind of energy cannot be faked. It can only be cultivated in silence, in practice, in the soil of the inner garden. But here's the thing. A garden doesn't grow overnight. It takes patience, consistency, and the willingness to remove what no longer belongs. That means you must pay attention to what you feed your mind, what you watch, what you listen to, who you surround yourself with, what stories you repeat to yourself, because all of it becomes the environment of your inner world, and the environment determines what grows. If you live in noise, you'll grow anxiety. If you live in comparison, you'll grow insecurity. If you live in reaction, you'll grow chaos. But if you choose silence, you'll grow awareness. If you choose discipline, you'll grow strength. If you choose truth, you'll grow freedom. That's what I chose. When others partied, I trained. When others argued, I listened. When others panicked, I breathed, because I wasn't just fighting for fame or victory. I was fighting to protect my mind from becoming a prison. And that is the real battle. Not the fight in the ring, but the fight between distraction and direction, between reaction and responsibility, between weeds and flowers. Now let me ask you, have you been tending to your inner garden? Or have you been letting others throw seeds over the fence? Have you been choosing your thoughts or repeating old ones that were planted years ago by people who never saw your greatness? You cannot rise while carrying beliefs that pull you down. You cannot grow while clinging to soil poisoned by your past. You must be ruthless with your inner space, not with violence, but with vigilance. You don't need to fight every thought. You just need to observe it. You don't need to prove anything. You just need to prune what's false. You don't need to become someone new. You just need to remove what's not you. And slowly, you begin to change. Not with noise, but with stillness. Not with force, but with flow. Not with panic, but with practice. You become the gardener, the protector, the master of your own mind. And when that happens, no insult can plant anger. No failure can plant fear. No loss can plant bitterness, because your soil has already been chosen. You've already done the work. You've already grown so much truth, discipline, and presence that there is no room left for poison. This is not a theory. This is the foundation of true power, because the world will always be loud. But the warrior, he remains still inside. The world will always try to plant doubt. But the master, he tends his garden with calmness and care. So, protect your mind, not with walls, but with awareness, not with fear, but with focus, not with control, but with clarity. And every day, return to that garden. Water the thoughts that bring peace. Pull the ones that bring pain. And build a space so strong, so rooted, so alive, that no storm can shake it. Because when your mind becomes sacred ground, your entire life becomes a reflection of that power. So now you've walked through the 15 principles, not just words, but weapons, not just ideas, but instruments of transformation, each one forged through my own journey, through the strikes I threw and the ones I absorbed, through the praise I received and the rejection I endured, through silence, through sacrifice, through the fire of discipline and the stillness of awareness. These are not philosophies I memorized. These are truths I bled for, and now they are yours. But here's what I must tell you. Knowledge means nothing if it is not lived. You can listen, you can admire, you can even quote my words to others. But if you do not practice them, if you do not make them part of your walk, your breath, your inner world, then you are simply a collector of inspiration, not a creator of change. I cannot walk the path for you. No master can. What I can do is light the fire. What you must do is keep it burning. You now know what it means to walk like you own the floor, to dominate instead of compete, to speak less and prove more, to train when no one watches, to create your own doors when none are open, to face the mirror and win the battle inside, to become the standard without apology, to stay humble, stay dangerous, to lead yourself first, to become untouchable by mastering your inner state, to express, not impress, to die before you die and be reborn in truth, to make peace with the void, to be water, formless and free, to build the inner garden and protect it like sacred ground. These are not steps. They are a way of being, a way of moving, a way of living with power that cannot be seen but always felt. Because real power does not come from fame. It does not come from force. It comes from one thing mastery of self. And if you master yourself, no system can break you. No opinion can shake you. No obstacle can define you. The goal is not to become me. It is to become you without compromise. Not a version shaped by fear or ego or approval, but a version sculpted by truth, by stillness, by alignment. So take these principles, not just into your mind, but into your body, into your habits, into your decisions, into the way you rise every morning and the way you walk through this world. And when people ask you, how did you become so focused, so calm, so alive? You will not need to speak, because your presence will answer for you. Remember this, you are not here to follow. You are here to flow. You are not here to shrink. You are here to shape. You are not here to be liked. You are here to be legendary. So go now. Live with precision. Train with obsession. Lead with silence. And become everything they said you couldn't. Not through noise, but through mastery. Be water, my friend, and let your entire life become the ripple that awakens the world.